So the reason for today was to actually share knowledge, and I'm going to put this up on our YouTube channel as well. So it's really nice to have you guys online, and it's an all-man crew today, so that's even more exciting. I get a lot of questions about funding. Where's the money? And we've had this conversation over the years, and particularly since COVID, and obviously during COVID, there was a huge amount of knowledge that was shared, where the money was, where it wasn't, what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. So the reason for today is to get as much information out there as possible, because I think there's a strange philosophy behind funding. We believe that there's no money for us. We believe that there is lots of money for us. So it depends on who and what you are to what it is that that you need within inside your business. So today I'm going to show you my slides. I'm going to showcase to you information that I think is really relevant right now for us. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Diane Borman. I'm a multi-award winning global business growth expert, and I really am passionate about business. I want each and every one of your businesses to grow. I want to make sure that you know where the knowledge lies in order for your business to grow to the next level. So one of the real amazing things that have happened in the last couple of months is I've achieved an award from London, which I'll be going through in November to go and accept. But it's a lifetime award, which is really exciting for me because that's part of my passion for business growth. I need everybody to make sure that they're growing in the right direction. And I need everybody to make sure that they have the knowledge that they need for the next level of growth. Whether you're a startup business, whether you're a small business, whether you're a growing business. I see Fumelo has joined us, and guess what? My next slide is all about some of my clients. And so he's going to be showcased shortly. But we have a money mindset that is quite rare in many cases. South Africa in particular, business owners believe that they need money in order to start businesses. It's a fallacy. I have to put it out there to everybody. I have to say that you need money along the journey. But in the beginning, it's very daunting when we start out and we start spinning out of control. And that's where the problem starts lying. We've actually got to know what are we doing, where are we going, and what is our next level. So when we do startups, there is money for startups. It's very few and far between. And you've got to make sure that you really are doing something different. There's money for next level. So once you've started and walked the streets and done some business, there's money for that. And then, of course, there's money for that next level. So with some of my clients, I like to showcase them every time I speak, and you'll see that I'm going to showcase a really special client who has joined us today, which is really nice. But this is a bit of information. Every hour, on the hour around the world, 12,000 new businesses start. There are 582 million entrepreneurs globally, and 334 million companies are SMMEs. So I just want to remind you that most things in life has already been done. Most things in life and business has already been done. So what we really need to remind ourselves is who has done it and done it already and been successful, because those are the kinds of people that we need to tap into. We need to gain their knowledge of how they did it. You need to be within their environment. And often those people that have moved to the next level and have been successful in South Africa has to spend money. So that's where a really fantastic opportunity lies for us, is how can they spend their money on you? So how are you positioning yourself in the marketplace to gain this kind of funding? And not always do we need money. there's three things that we need to remember as we grow in life and in our business is finance. So we need some sort of funding or money, whether it's money from outside or whether it's from sales. We need skills. We need to know what skills we actually need to run a business and to grow a business. And let me tell you that if you have already started a business and you move into the next level, you need different skills, because what's got you to this level is not going to get you to the next level. And then we need access to markets. And I believe access to markets is probably the number one thing that you need as a business owner, more so than funding. Because if people are buying from you, if you're gaining sales, you actually know that your product offering or service offering is what somebody needs. So keep that in mind as we continue talking. So just to remind you that it's really good to position yourself. And this is from January, when I won an award in Dubai for Changemaker of the Year. And this is really what I'm wanting to do, is to change. Fumelo is one of my beautiful prize candidates of a business owner that I've been working with. And just to give you some highlights of how we can change business owners and how we can start implementing things. Fumelo and I have worked together in a program, and we're working together in a new one, and hopefully we're going to be working together in programs going forward. But his business 10x'd in the first year of us working together. Not only because of the knowledge that we shared, but particularly because Fumelo became focused. And so his journey is not necessarily now that he's needing money to run his business, but he could be needing money for the next level. So what happens when you gain a bigger contract, when you gain bigger clients, is you don't necessarily have the cash flow to start off with, but you might need invoicing finance. So the different ways of looking at money comes into play now. But more importantly, Fumelo should be looking at the monies that he's already bringing in. How can they make him more money? And if you look at the top 10 world famous top business people of the world, you will see that 7 out of 10 are not profitable. And why? Because they use their money to spend on other businesses. They acquire new businesses. So there's always money changing hands along the way. And that way we grow into a new area. So keep that in mind, that money is a continuous flow. One of the most important questions that you need to ask yourself is, what have you got that others want? So why you? Why your company? Why would I spend money on your company? What makes you unique? And this is a big area that most people forget, because you have an idea, you think it's fabulous, and most of our ideas are fabulous, but how do you set yourself apart from everybody else? How can I say to you that you are the person that I need to send all the businesses that I've got money to spend to you? Why would I do that? What have you got that is so unique, that is so different? And I'll give you an example of that. If I stand up in a networking space and say to you that I help businesses grow, you're all going to go, that's fantastic, Diane. But if I say to you, I'm a multi-award winning business growth specialist that help to inspire, motivate, and educate business owners in order to increase your sales, your profit, and ultimately your confidence, more people come to me and have a conversation. So I'm differentiating myself immediately from everybody else, because I talk global, I travel globally, I have clients globally, and that's important for me because I gain wisdom and knowledge from global to share with local. I have a number of awards, which is really exciting to be put out for those kind of awards. But more importantly, it gains me access to people of different levels, and more importantly, the people with the money. So that's what differentiates me from many other people. But what differentiates you? What's going to make you stand out from your competitors? Do you know what your competitors are doing that you are not doing? Or that you should be maybe one step ahead? Because are you a leader in your space, or are you just following suit? And this is normally what happens when we receive business plans. Somebody has copied somebody else's idea and you're not making it your own. So what is unique about you that you can bring into a business space? So let's talk funding. There's numerous ways of gaining money. There's grants, loans, equity, and sometimes, and most importantly, it's a combination of both. So what are you prepared to give up for money? Money costs money, and money costs time. So you've got to always remember that. What are you prepared to give up for money? So if we look at the grant scenario, that's normally from a government organization, whether it's actual government or one of their subsidiaries. It could be an organization like USAID. It could be from local Western Cape government. It could be from municipalities. It could be from organizations like CEDA, CETA, CIFA. There's many industry bodies that has money for you. So why do you need it and what are you prepared to give up? When I start working with clients, I always tap into the grants first when we're looking at money. Grants are a great way to increase profit. But this area, you need to already be an established business, usually of some sort. You don't have to be turning millions at this point. But always working with government gives you a clear understanding of the information that you need because your compliance level is high. So they need a lot of information. When it comes to loans, and if you go to a bank or you go to organizations like business partners, etc., they're going to want even more things in place. And then when you step into the space of investors, they're going to want even more. But are you prepared to give up shares in your business? Which is always an interesting topic because if you're giving shares of a business that's turning R1 million with a potential of turning 50 million, are you prepared to give up 10%, 50%, 75% of that? Or are you wanting to just stay the same? So it's food for thought always, and it's always a great debate that we have. One of the areas is what are you building as an asset within inside your company? So that could mean whether you're buying property, whether you have IP, which is really important. And almost every business should have IP because that gives you a tangible value, something within inside your company. So even if you're a small business, you still need to have an asset. So we often work with business owners at looking at developing blueprints with various organizations, and that blueprint should then be trademarked, and that's your IP. You can have patents, which you can then use as your IP. There's many instances that your assets become really important, and especially when you're applying for funding, it showcases the level of business that you are thinking of building, because it's always what you are building. Why are you building something? Staff, there are a few areas that you can gain funding for staff, and this is normally for businesses that are already trading, that want to suddenly implode the amount of staff members that they've got. There's a great fund that opens once a year for that. But also training of staff, because if we have staff, we've got to remember that we need to keep that training going, and there's funding for that. Normally, you have to apply for it at the beginning of the year, around about March, and that way you can gain access to the money at the end of the year. So keep that in mind when you are growing your business. There is money for that. And then working capital. This is a big one because we forget how much money we need in order to continue the flow of business. So working capital becomes important. Don't ever underestimate working capital. And very few funds are available for working capital, but it's probably the one fund that we need the most. So if you think about the funds, the areas that most funds cover, it would be one of those three. or a combination of those three. But usually for something that you either have done extremely well on, for something that's completely unique and something that's different, or if there's a need for it in the marketplace. So can you prove that there's a need? There's loads of programs. So if you're local and you want to go global, there's programs for that. If you want to stay within your community, there's government programs, there's municipal programs, there's national programs, and there's international programs. So what are you doing? What is your next level of growth? You've got to truly work that out. And a lot of people dream big, but most of us don't dream big enough. But it also takes time. So what can you do right now? What is your next level of growth? And then from there, what is your next level? So if you plot it, and that's why you will find that the requirements, and I'll show you shortly of what is needed, showcases where you're going to. That's part of your business plan. Part of your forecasts is, if you're doing this now, how long is it going to take you to get to the next level, to the next level? Is there another level behind you? So if you're buying a fleet of vehicles and that's what you're looking for money for, how many is the fleet of vehicles? How many staff do you have right now for the vehicle? So if you buy one now, could a second one be put into place in the next 3 to 5 years? Don't make things unrealistic, because the people that are looking at your business plans and your forecasts know what's going on from a monetary point of view. They look at numbers. They only look at numbers. So you've got to be really careful what you put down. What you believe is possible and what is actually possible usually is two different things. So as I mentioned, there is a list of requirements that is needed. You also do need to be compliant. So whether compliance for you means that you need to be registered with CIPC, that's a level of compliance. Whether you have already completed 1 year of finances, then you need to be tax compliant. Whether you are growing your business and need ISO compliance or need whatever the next level of compliance is, you need to have those in place. If you don't have those in place, it's very difficult to get funding and to get monies. You need a business plan, and please do not go onto ChatGPT and go and develop a business plan on ChatGPT, because we will pick it up very quickly. We will say to you that this is ChatGPT business plan. And this is the reason why. It's like during lockdown, I used to say to my clients, I can tell when you're sitting on your bed and when you got your pajamas on, when you're on Zoom and you got your Zoom thing off, your Zoom camera off, because you're sending me emails that is so casual, it's not worth me even reading them. And it's the same with a business plan. I can tell when it's in ChatGPT format. You need to realistically think about, what are you growing? What do you really want to achieve out of the business? So if you are building this logistics company and you want a vehicle, and this is what you're going to be doing, and you're going to be bringing goods from Joburg to Cape Town and Cape Town to Joburg, realistically, how many trips can you make? How much money can you make from one trip? If you're somebody in a consultancy space and you're charging per hour, realistically, how many hours in a day can you be doing consultancy work? If you're driving to go and meet your clients, realistically, you need to counter that time into the space. So if you said you worked with the clients for 2 hours a day, you probably could only get 2 clients in a day. You need to be realistic behind it. And that's all part of your business plan. So if you think about it, always think about it from a monetary point of view. How much time and how much money am I going to be able to earn, whether it's 1 or 1,000 people within inside a business? These are the things that make the business plan realistic or not. This is normally what is needed, whether you are starting with government or whether you are starting with investors or whether you're starting with just your family and friends. You need to have some form of numbers. And most business owners get numbers wrong. because we don't take the time to analyze what we've done in the past, if we've done anything in the past, and we don't take time to analyze what's realistic about the future. So if you already are an established business, your annual financials become important. And this is where a lot of business owners go wrong, because they don't believe that they can get away with not having their annual financials. It shouldn't be costing you a huge amount of money. You can do most of it. If you're a CC, you can do most of it and then just get the final bit sorted out with your accountant. Or if you a PTY, your accountant needs to step in a little bit sooner, but it shouldn't cost you a huge amount of money. You should already have some sort of system that you are working with. And if you are starting out, you need to have a system from the beginning. If you are more advanced, you need to make sure that your financial system will be able to provide you with enough information from it. So it needs to be set up in a way that you can gain management accounts, expenses, a forecast for the future, so that you don't have to sit and do it manually. And of course, tax clearance certificates are vital in any form. Doesn't matter who you're applying through. People are looking at that because they want to make sure that you are above board, that you're doing things right. Then your cash flow budgets for the next 5 years. This is where your realism or not comes into play. We all want to make $1 million in our first year, first month, first week, first day, whatever your idealism is, but realistically understand what the future is. What is your who is your network? Who is your clients? And that will determine how big you can grow within the first while. Remember, overachieving is really exciting. So to inflate your numbers to start with is not going to help. And then budgets, look at every tiny little detail. And I know that in a number of situations that we've been in, we forget the detail. If you're working from a home base, from a home office, or from on your bed, from in your dining room, those are all expenses. You have electricity, you have coffees, you have, all those kind of things that we forget about. List them. If you want to include them, it's a good idea because it gives you a realistic picture of the future. And it also shows you where you can't move. So what I mean by that is sometimes we underestimate our expenses and so bring on more staff quicker than what we can actually afford them. Or we step into new markets before we can truly afford them. Going international takes a lot of cash flow, and that's what we need to understand. Moving into new markets takes cash flow. You've got to build brands along the way too. And of course, things like your CIPC documents, your banking details, and in South Africa, your BEE certificates are really important. So those are things that are readily available once you are compliant within them, and a letter of good standing, of course. So what are the true opportunities right now? The true opportunities is that there is a lot of money. There's a huge amount of money available to us. There's money for marketing from Cedar. So if you starting out and relatively new and have a great idea, your business plan is the most important document that you're going to need. But Cedar would be able to help you market. And I work with Cedar, and many of my clients have been part of Cedar. And it's things that we have as expenses that suddenly somebody else is paying is a real plus. So whether it's signage, if you're moving into offices, they do signage for you, whether you want a billboard, whether you want just social media presence, any of those kind of things, Cedar will look at. So you've got to apply to be one of their clients, and then they'll give you the list of requirements, which is what I've just shown you. SETA is the organization in South Africa that you need to be part of if you have staff. And once you have staff, you have to pay things like UIF and SDL, and that will allow you then to tap into the various discretionary grants that are available in the different industries. But it's really nice money that you get, and it's tax rebates, and it's those kind of things that become important. So if I was charging for this hour session with you, they would then refund you the money that you spent on today's session, as an example. So if you have if you are working with coaches, if you're doing any form of training, if you are training and mentoring your staff members, all those hours you need to be listing and claiming back from SETA once you're part of it. So it's a really nice way of gaining a nice bundle of money at the end of each financial year. SEFA is an organization where you can get finance. So if you are new, they would fund. If you are starting out or tapping into a new market, they could possibly fund. Their lists of requirements are the same, but it can get worse depending on how much money you are looking for and how many more numbers that they need. So you need to make sure that you have a bookkeeper, accountant, or somebody on hand, because SEFA can get really down to the nitty-gritties of numbers. But the important numbers that you need to keep at the back of your mind always will be gross profit, net profit, turnover, etc. Then there are opportunities for you from organizations that do things like pitch and polish. One of my clients won pitch and polish 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember. It's a nice R1 million. You don't get the money, but you get it for what you need it for. So they needed money for machinery, which was fantastic because it boosted their machinery and their efficiencies and their productivity amazingly. So they pushed their whole business 5 years ahead of where they were. But the whole way through pitch and polish is, I think you go into about 5 rounds, is about numbers. They're going to ask you numbers. So if you're going to go into any of the competitions that are around, and there's lots, make sure that you truly understand what your numbers are. And they're going to catch you out if you're going to thumb suck. So if you don't know something, make sure that you say you'll get back to them on that. Then there's a lot of hubs. There's a lot of hubs in South Africa, but also in the world, for all, also called incubators. And they share business knowledge. It's normally for the smaller businesses, but it's a great way of meeting other business owners. So it's a great way to build your ecosystem, no matter what level of business that you are at. Normally, and the majority of the incubators and the hubs have the potential to tap into government funding. So depending on what you need and how you need it, they are able to tap into that. But it's normally a year's program that you are part of. And that way you gain knowledge, which is always good to get. You gain an ecosystem, which is always good to get. And remember, that ecosystem should be opening up access to markets for you, which is what we need. Most importantly in the growth of our businesses. Then we have other organizations within the South African government and many other governments around the world. South Africa, we have an organization called TIA. That is for technology. And there's a number of opportunities right now open for technology. I think it closes at the end of the month. So if you're in a space where you're wanting to build your own tech, if number one is there's nothing else the same as what you wanting to build, so a new platform, or if you want to take what you're currently doing and add tech to it. So one of my clients recently, we've just added a product, but using TIA because they use engineers at universities to come up with this whole new idea. And that idea we'll be able to patent, and we'll be able to take his business from really great growing business to the next level just from adding a new IP once we've got sign off. So we've now got the actual engineering design. The next level would be for us to do is prototypes. But remember, it takes time. So this has taken a year to get to this level. So it's nothing that's in a rush. So if you need money immediately, you need to go to the bank. What else can I tell you about opportunities? USAID is a fantastic organization and often has a huge opportunities. Every single business in South Africa has to spend 1% on ESD funding. And majority of the businesses that sit within the medium-sized space, which is around about, it's over 10 million, but to 50 million, around about that space has to spend 1% of their profit. And usually they don't get the opportunity because they don't know who to spend it with. This is a nice area for you to tap into consultants that are working with those types of companies to say, hi, I'm here and this is what I'm needing. And then don't forget the big corporates, they have to spend money in the ESD side, which is they normally have a lot of programs around for growth, well, for skills development to start off with, which is what we need if you're starting a business. And then we now starting to push for the growth of business as well, that they'll be paying for. A number of them already do it. And they're also great opportunities for you to meet up with a lot of other business owners and to grow your ecosystems. There's a lot of international monies. So our investors that sit around the world that we tap into often, they usually look at Africa and South Africa to invest money in at the moment. We seem to be a real great calling card for a lot of investors to look into South Africa. Now, a big beware moment is in South Africa, we have a lot of gatekeepers before you get to the money. So every gatekeeper wants a percentage commission. I charge commission if I look for funding for business owners. I charge it on successful funding applications. Whereas a lot of others want you to pay up front and there's no guarantee that you're going to get anything. So please be wary about looking for individual investors because you're going to spend a lot of money. It also takes a lot of time to find individual investors, and their criteria is very different. So every single investor will look at a certain criteria, and this is what they're looking for, is the biggest return on investment. So what is your return on monies that they have spent with you? This is a very big thing that if you can prove that, if, for example, if you have future orders, if you've got signed contracts, that will help you establish your return on investment, which is a really good way to start with. Make sure that you have something in place before tapping into investors, because most investors will want a percentage of your business. So there's your equity that we spoke about in the beginning. If you work with companies like Alon Reyes, many of you have heard about him in the past. He's also been part of Pitch and Polish. When you work with him, he will tap into your equity. He will want some of your shares. And it's a great way for him to make money because he's making money off what you are doing. But are you prepared to give that up? So those are the most important opportunities that are out there at the moment for funding. If you are not part of the Western Cape government, the KwaZulu-Natal government, and the Gauteng government's database, you need to be part of that. You need to be on the CSD database, which is our centralized supply database within South Africa, because every top corporate will go and look for your name on that. They want to know that you are actually listed somewhere. And that's an important one to be on, but it will also give you the new opportunities and the new funds that are open. Make sure you read the criteria. That's the most important, because every single funding opportunities criteria differ. So if you can solve the problem that they have, that they're trying to solve, you'll be able to gain the money. So make sure that your business plan is in alignment with whatever problem that they're solving. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. They're not even going to look at it. From a viewpoint of investors, investors will always look at things like return on investment, what is unique and different, how have you positioned yourself as well as your organization or company, and how is it going to benefit them? So keep that in mind when you're working with investors. If you're just starting out on the funding space, I would always start with government. And remember, there's also other government organizations that we also tap into, like the Department of Small Business is great to tap into. They often have funding opportunities that come out, as well as industry specific. So depending on what industry you are in, there's industry specific organizations linked to the government that's important. As an example, for those of you that are wanting to travel and wanting to tap into international markets, there is funding for that, for you to do international travel. You can do 6 a year, if I remember correctly. So it's great to know why you're going to that country. Obviously, you want to establish and find distributors. So it's good to be part of the national pavilions where you go and showcase at an expo. It's good to be part of Wesgrow. They have a great training program for tapping into international markets, because you need to know when you can relinquish the rights of your products. And that becomes really important for international. But there are also other organizations when it comes to industry specific, and that's really important for you to know. What industry do you fall into? And what do we have from an economic development within the governments in every single country right now? What is available for you? If you look at countries like Wales, for example, right now they have so much opportunity and investment and money to share that a lot of people are putting their head office in countries like Wales now, because they can gain great tax incentives, which is a really important thing to think about as your business grows. Where should you really be? How can you save monies like taxes? And the growth of your business will depend on what monies that you need. So what questions do we have? Let's break for a moment. I'm sure you're tired of hearing my voice. So let's break for a moment and hear, what are the questions? What do you want to know? What haven't I answered?
Diane,
Yes.
Charles here.
Hi,
Just
Charles.
on some of your acronyms that you are using, ESD, what does that stand for?
Enterprise Supplier Development.
Supplier development. You also referred to, on a second matter, you're talking to about your BEE certificate.
Yes.
What about your sole proprietors that doesn't fit the criteria or the need for a BEE certificate? Will that be a disadvantage immediately?
Immediately.
Okay.
And remember, if you're a small business and only starting out now, it's best to get a BEE certificate, even if you're a sole provider, because you will always be a level 4, depending on who the owners are of the business. But if you're less than R1 million, it will be a level 4 BEE, which is 100% viable for a lot of businesses. However, a lot of ESD programs only look at level 1 and level 2 on BEE. So they're looking for disadvantaged communities in order to spend their money, but not always.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Famela.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, no questions for now.
Awesome.
I'm still absorbing everything. Thank you.
Good show. Anybody else with questions? As a sole proprietor, you need to just keep in mind that you can stay at that level, but I would suggest that you start registering with CIPC. It's not a huge amount of money, but very seldom are you going to be able to pick up monies from government organizations if you stay at a sole proprietor level. Just as a suggestion. So I would look at, and the money is not necessarily, it doesn't cost a huge amount of money to be CIPC registered. So that's the important thing. We need to make sure that we are compliant with CIPC, and that you have a tax number. I think those are the most important. Whether you're making money or not making money, it doesn't matter. And also funding doesn't always come to people that are making money. It's to see what you are doing and how are you doing it. So as an example, to start out with as a new business or as a business that's relatively small, the very first things would be to find an incubator, find a hub Go and gain as much knowledge as you can. Build your ecosystems. Tap into the seeder space for marketing. Those are the really nice startup ones. Then as you move into the bigger space is, how are you going to impact? So if you are in the coaching, consulting, that kind of space, speaker kind of space, then you look at the quantity of people that you can impact. That's what they're looking for. So if you are now talking about gender-based violence as an example, what are you going to do different from everybody else? How are you going to do it different? And how many people can you impact at any given time? We did an application recently for a lady that's specifically in this space, and they said that it wasn't impactful enough. Because what we tend to do is we tend to jump on the bandwagon of others, of the way that they're doing it. So we need to be a little bit more creative and a little bit more adventuresome when it comes to how we want to do the stuff, because that's what they're looking at. What are you doing that's different right now? Awesome. Any other, here's a question. When is the right time to start working on a business plan, even though you don't need funding? Tumelo, you should have done one already. When you start a business plan is actually quite crucial, even if it's a one-page business plan. And when I work with business owners in the Diamond Plan, I always suggest a one-page business plan. And that is really to help you make decisions. Because as a business owner, you're going to get a lot of opportunities. When you start on anything, you're going to get opportunities. What the one-page business plan allows you to do is to really identify what you're building. Then you go into a full business plan, which is what you're going to need from a bank scenario, from a government institution scenario, and that's more for funding opportunities. So that's really putting your thinking cap on how many people do you eventually want to employ? Do you want to have your own business space? Do you want to stay local? Do you want to go national? Do you want to go international? Those are the important things behind a business plan. How are you going to do it? What is your marketing plan? It's all your strategies together becomes your big final business plan. But in the beginning, if you're not tapping into funding, then I would most certainly have a one-page business plan that's in front of you all the time to make sure that you're making the right business decisions. So that would be, what is your vision, your vision, your mission, your values, and your KPIs, and your strategic objectives. And once you've got that, you know what you're building. And that's the importance of a business plan. That's why I say don't do it on ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is going to send you in a completely different direction that you wanting to go in. So make sure that you're not doing that. What other questions do we have? No question. Everybody's quiet. If you don't ask questions now, you're not going to get the opportunity, because after this you have to pay for them.
No, I think this has been quite comprehensive. Thank you, Diane.
It's a pleasure, Charles.
Taken a lot of notes here with regards to the business funding itself, the grants, loans, the equities, the assets, the staff, the working capital, what various programs, the opportunities, what the requirements are, and all of that. So you have really, really given me a lot of material to think about. There's a lot of opportunity in South Africa for, let me put my camera on. I think this is actually quite ill of me not to speak with the face on. Thank you. A lot of opportunity in South Africa due to the previously disadvantaged communities that we have, that we need to look at how can we help to feed these people. Do you think that is a business that will attract attention from organizations, either from government, from local, national, international, as to help to feed
100%.
the nation?
Yes.
Okay.
And
so although you start your own business, sorry to interrupt there, although you start your own business, you are doing this also to better yourself, but majority of the reason, and I call it the majority of the reason, is that you want to uplift and provide for others as well that is in need.
So I have a very different philosophy, and those that have worked with me in the past will probably hear some of the words that they've already heard from me. You cannot make impact unless you're making profit. So you can only make impact if you've got profit, because 1% of the profit in all corporates at the moment goes to CSI projects, which could be the feeding of whoever. The thing that we do so wrong in business, and that's why we have this huge percentage of failure, is everybody says that they want to help people. They want to help, they want to give back, they want to do, but if they're not doing anything within inside their own organization and their own company, they can't make impact. They can't go and help somebody else, because it just doesn't make sense then. Then you start a charity. So you've got to think of it from a way, because there's a lot of charities in this space. Feeding schemes, there's a lot of organizations that will give money to charities for feeding of, whether it's children in schools or staff members or whatever the case is. So if you are going to make it a business and not a charity, what is the benefit? So what is the difference between the charity that I could spend money on and gain CSI points, because every corporate needs CSI points as well as part of their BEE, okay? Or why would I give it to you as a business or spend money on you? So that would be the biggest thing that I would look at, is why? What will make you different, and what will encourage me to spend money on you? Sorry. And your feeding scheme or whatever it is that you're wanting to put together, what is that reason? The other thing is that from a feeding point of view is, if you looked at various what do you call them, like office blocks, like Old Mutual, for example, they have a canteen for their staff because they want to make it easy, but not every place has that. So there's a big need in a lot of the business parks, as an example, that you would be able to earn money from. So it's not a charity, but part of what your footprint could be is, if you make X amount of profit, X amount goes to the local feeding scheme. If you look at some of the very big organizations or some of the companies that have grown so fast in the last couple of years, you will notice that part of their footprint is their give back. And that's what made them successful, is that if you buy shoes from Falskun, as an example, X number of shoes are going to go to the schools for children that can't afford shoes for school. And that's made them extremely successful, because they've put their money where their mouth is. So I think the important thing is, what are you going to do that's going to attract people, and why you and not somebody else? So what is making you different, and positioning yourself is so important for this. It's unbelievable, because you can gain monies from the first organization I would tap into is USAID.
I fully agree with you, because in the say sort of like provisional business plan that has been put together, and specifically for Shatapi, is to look at an event or a business park. All the opportunities has been looked at, and then whatever is a event. Let's take now, we have got a 60th birthday celebration for a CEO of Astron, for instance. Then you take and you add on a 10% there. So whatever you charge the client, you make sure that you create another 10% that you can then partner with a previously disadvantaged organization, a shelter or something like that. It doesn't cost you money. You're just doing that extra little bit, and that is what you provide. Then that 10%, then in food-wise, not money-wise, will go to them.
So I would look at it completely different, Charles.
Okay.
I would I would never say that you're going to add on. First of all, your prices, you know that you're going to add on, obviously, in order to make enough profit to give away. But I would do it completely different, because you've got to think out the box now. Most people have done a lot of this kind of thing, of giving to disadvantaged communities, etc. How could you do it so that the disadvantaged community keeps their pride, number one, learns a skill, number two, and you are able to give back, number three? And I'm just going to throw a completely bizarre idea out at you. If you had a caravan, a trailer, or whatever it is that you're going to cook out of, that you often see at these different places, imagine if the roof of it was where you grew herbs and vegetables. And as you were driving, it becomes a sustainable moving vehicle. That whatever grows on top goes to the local school or whatever for the children. But they have to, once a week, ensure that they look after it, that they know how it grows, that they know how much water to feed it, that they know how to. So you're educating, because I think that that's what we don't do very well, is that we want to uplift, but if we just give and not educate, we're not creating the society that can be sustainable on their own rights. And most of them have so much creativity, so much potential. They just need the opportunity.
Correct, yes. I fully agree with you. I like your stand on that. Do I agree 100%? I can't really say, because there's other aspects that one tap into. Do we have to educate? Yes. In South Africa, everybody is looking at education. We give the people, it is like they said in the Bible, give a man a fish and you would feed so many people and all that. Yes, you used it as an example, which I appreciate, but also whether there's always education involved, it is not always possible.
No, agreed.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it could be that instead of giving profit, that you are spending once a week at a school, helping them grow vegetables. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I think what I'm just saying is, how can we do it that is different from others at the moment, that will be able to create a name of what you stand for? So whatever your values are, and whatever makes you different, and how you want to position it, how can you just do it different? That's the question, because I think that there's too many people doing the same old, and that's why they're not getting funding. And that's why the disappointment comes. And we don't want that.
Correct, yes. Yeah. So when you talk about education, I would actually rather than, and that is the reason why I actually disagreed with you partially, is that it's rather upliftment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. My 2
100%.
cents.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that whatever you're building inside your business, please remember that it's got to be about you. What do you stand for? What are your values? I mean, I've had a couple of clients that are very fascinating. All my clients are fascinating, but one of my clients wanted to do a whole sustainability project or business. And the next minute you see on social media that they're holding plastic cups or drinking out of plastic bottles. Now, you can't say one thing and do the opposite. That's the problem, because you'll get caught out. So what is it that you're building, and what is it that you can add value to? I mean, if somebody asked me to go and help children, I was asked, this is an example that happened last week. National Mentorship Movement, which is an organization in South Africa, which is a fantastic movement. They help start up businesses. You can go there, you can be part of their programs. There's a lot of education behind it, and you gain a mentor. And I've been mentoring a couple of people in the past. The one gentleman is just phenomenal. He's like attached himself, and he's been journeying with me for about 5 years now. But National Mentorship Movement reached out to me and said, would I go and watch a movie with 180 high school boys from disadvantaged communities? The movie is going to be about gender-based violence and bullying and all those kind of things. So I watched the movie and I went back to them and I said, I cannot be a mentor. I'd love to, but I cannot be a mentor for these boys because I don't have the right experience. I cannot talk about it because I work in business. That I can talk to them about business and about how you need to show up in business and that you need to be on time and then you need to dress in a certain way and you need to whatever. But I can't talk to them about gender-based violence. I can't talk to them about bullying at home. That's not my area of expertise. So this is a typical example of people doing something really right, but doing it in the wrong way. So they needed psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, life coaches, etc., to be part of it. And what they've done is they've just done this blanket call to everybody as their mentors or who would be available to go and talk. And I just said that I think that what you're doing is fantastic. I think it's a beautiful, and I watched the movie and it's really starts sparking ideas and it's a fantastic thing that they've put together. But if I say the wrong thing to these boys, I could destroy a boy's life, and I'm not prepared to do that. So we've got to be really careful what it is that we want to offer, and is it part of what you stand for and your level of expertise? So, be vigilant about what you're creating, because I'm telling you, it will come back if it's not right. And people are looking. People are stalkers. They are looking all the time at what's going on. I can tell you the comments that I have that people say to me of posts that I have posted like 10 years ago, they come back and they tell me. So I know people are stalking. So just be careful what you put out there, number one, and what you want to do. It's interesting, isn't it? The world is a fascinating place.
No, it's definitely interesting. So I've got one question for you.
Yes.
When are you running for president?
Oh, you funny, Charles.
Because
Oh, that's very kind of you. I just want to help business owners. I don't want to run for president. I have no time for politics. They will fire me on the first hour of me sitting in the presidential place. I just want to help business owners. That's all. Yeah, that's where I sit. Also, the other one that I forgot to mention is Productivity SA, which is also a great organization and something that a lot of businesses could tap into. And that helps with efficiency and productivity, obviously, if you think of the name. And it's not only from like a manufacturing point of view, but what they do is they tap into, if you're already an established business or getting into that space, is they look at your financial side of things. So they look at things like, are you productive enough from a financial point of view? And then they look at the efficiencies in what you do. So it's quite an interesting one, and one that I'm actually applying for a couple of my clients currently. So we'll see how time consuming or not it is. But if anybody has questions on any organization that they want to apply for any funding, please reach out and I'll tell you whether it's worth it or not, because we've done a lot of applications in the past. And but if you're not in it, you can't win it, as they say. So make sure that you know where the monies lie and how to tap into it. Anything else from anybody else? Pierre Tumelo,
good
anybody else?
Thank you.
Awesome, Charles. Fumelo, you're 10xing again, so we need you to tap into some other monies too, hey?
Yeah, I was listening. My ears perked up when you spoke about Productivity SA, because that's where I am right now. Building the tools and the systems to make sure that the 10x can happen a little quicker than it did the last time around.
Yes, absolutely. Productivity SA is really interesting because it looks at your efficiencies, and often we forget about them. So even though you only want to work 3 days a week, you know, it's still efficient for 3 days a week or however many days. So it needs
I
to.
also want a job like that. Where can I apply?
Pamela, how many days a week do you work?
Now 4.
There we go.
Yeah, for
See,
4
Charles,
hours every day. Yeah.
4 hours every day for 4 days a week. Isn't that awesome?
It is awesome. I work 7 hours, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Yeah, no, you see now. We got to change that, Charles. We got to change it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before I retire.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's funny. Any other questions that we have? Anybody else online?
Hi, Diane. From my side, no questions. I just want to say thank you so much. Very, very insightful. I've got a lot to process and a lot of homework to do. But yeah, thank you so very much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
it's a pleasure. Thank you for joining online. And everybody that's online, if you want to send me your business plans for an analysis, you are welcome to do so. Even if it's just a one-liner as your business plan so far, you know, we can always add the headings and the topics and the whatever that you should be covering, because I think it's a really good starting point. And normally, you have to have something to start with. It has to have a plan. So whether we call it a business plan or an idea plan or whatever, you've got to start somewhere. And I think that that's the important thing. And my take on funding is when you start up, you need to walk the streets for sales. So you can actually gain large amount of money without funding to start off with. And I think that that's the important side, you know, find where you can get a contract, find where you can get sales on a regular basis that's fixed. That solves a lot of dilemmas when you're starting up in a business or when you're relatively new in your own business, because you want to gain, you want to show the success that you've done it on your own, and then tap into funding. That's always my suggestion. Awesome. Well, the hour's up, and have a fantastic day. We always do an hour and then we move on. The 1st of August, every month, the very first Thursday of a month at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're welcome to jump online. We have a guest speaker every month. It's fantastic. They give fantastic knowledge. We had KPMG last month, which was speaking about family-run businesses. So if you're wanting to know more, it's on my YouTube channel, which I'm just starting, but don't tell anybody yet because not much on there. And then on the 1st of August, we have a fantastic guy, Dr. Byron, which I met in Dubai in January. He lives in the USA, and he'll be jumping online and coming to have a conversation with us. So we look forward to these informative talks too, because the more knowledge we gain, the easier it is to make better business decisions. So,
will we approach this on the same meeting ID on a Monday morning? Or is the different IDs and stuff like
it's
that?
a different ID, but I will share it with you, Charles.
Awesome. Thank you, Diane.
Pleasure. Fantastic, everybody. Have an awesome day.
Thank you,
Meet soon,
Diane.
and go and grow
You
your
too.
businesses.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye
Mama
now.
D. Bye.
Bye, Mr. T.